Hey yo, it's Guido coming at you with Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I've got another replay analysis or a player analysis. I had Amaruk here. He asked me to look at a bunch of his replays, take a look at his stats, and do what I've been doing for some of you guys in the recent past, just basically digging into what your resume is right now, see if we can glean some information from that, then go to the replays and look for ways to give Amaruk some help. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I've actually changed it up slightly here. I have in the past compared his to mine, but I actually find another better player, even better player than me. We're going to look at some things as a general rule for stats and maybe address just a little bit in amongst this discussion with Amaruk the whole idea of the stat denial stuff that drives everybody a little bit crazy if you're any kind of serious person. So anyway, starting with Amaruk here, he's just started 4,401 battles. He's got a 48.51% win rate, which is basically average. Server average, not really a little bit lower than current average or current player average. Tends to be different. A lot of people who don't do well at the game drop out. Those numbers stay in the server stats, so that's a little bit lower than the current average person's win rate, but just fine. Average at 4,400 and definitely showing some serious signs of life, which is a good thing. We'll talk about that right now. So let's get into his statistics real quick. Again, this is his 4,401 battles, but really for him, this is also recent. So that's about how he's playing now. He's getting better, it appears. And I think there's some good things going on here. Number one, where is it? Damage ratio is 1.18. Destruction ratio is 0.82. Those are good. For this level of player just starting off, those are actually very good numbers. I always say you want to be right about 1.0 to hit about 50%. He's certainly on his way. The damage ratio is looking good. Destruction ratio a little low. Start working on that. Now this was interesting. His hits are 47.89. That is extremely low. It really is. We're going to look at what he plays, and I don't think that has a lot to do with it. So there's something going on with his mechanics. Either hardware, internet, his actual physical mechanics, or something, perhaps the equipment that he uses to play the game. I don't know. We'll have to just talk about it as best we can in the replay, and maybe he can fill us in a little bit down below as well. He sent me a long note, and we'll talk about some of that also. Armor use is at 0.19. It's kind of whatever. That depends on what tank you are running. So what I like to do is often compare it to mine. So if we look at this, down here at 1.7 damage ratio, 2.28 destruction ratio, and that gives me about a 58.36 win rate over 80,000 battles. Armor use at 0.4. Now I thought this was really interesting because I know I'm a pretty good player, so we'll look at mine, then we look at his, and what about a better player? So I talked a little bit at the beginning. Do stats really talk to how good of a player you are? Do higher stats mean you're a better player? It seems obvious. The answer is obviously yes, but it's very amazing that a lot of people don't believe this. So one of the new CCs, I hope he doesn't mind this, it's certainly not stat shaming because he's a very good player, is German intelligence. So he's just started on as one of the CCs, and I knew he was a good player, so I looked up his stats, and we're just going to take a quick look at that. Mine to his to Amaruk's. Now, German intelligence is running a 61.63 win rate over 20,000 battles. That's 3 points plus higher than mine, math in public. If we look down here, we see he's at a 79.81 hit rate. He's actually hitting better than me. You can't damage anything if you don't hit him, so that's pretty fantastic. A little bit of this may be skewed because he plays primarily high tiers and they have more accurate guns, but still, that's 6% more, 7% more. That is significant. Okay, that is a significant stat increase over mine. His damage ratio is a little higher than mine. His destruction ratio is also a little higher than mine. His armor use efficiency is higher than mine. This one I loved. His defense points are more than twice, closing in on 3 times his base capture points. That is a guy who goes back and defends the base. All right, that is a guy. It took me a long time to learn that, and I'm basically starting to crawl back towards evening these back up. But this right here is a really telling stat. Is really a telling stat. So thanks, German intelligence. I appreciate that. I hope that didn't make you mad, but there you go. Let's take a quick look at the infographics for Amaruk because that's who we're trying to help. And you can see that he's a new player, so he's concentrating most of his games down the low tier. That makes complete sense. Primarily a TD player. He did tell me that. Oh, and look at this. Also a lot of artillery. So that can account for a significant amount of the lower hit rate. That's one of those great examples right there where you can't just take every stat directly at face value without looking at it in context with the rest of the stats. I would still contend that that's a little bit low, but we'll take a look at how he operates in 3 games and see if maybe we can help him out to improve that a little bit. My advice, Amaruk, right now, in order to get better at this game, I would concentrate a little less on artillery. Playing artillery is important because it can teach you how to play against it. It can teach you about how to defend against it. That's absolutely important. You can do missions with it and all kinds of things. But I would, if you are serious about trying to improve your actual gameplay, start lessening the amount of artillery you play and move into more mediums and heavies. That's where I would go with a dash of lights to help that out. And then if you're a TD player and you just like TDs, do that for your relaxation or you know, having a bad day. I just want to play my favorite TD. But I would stop playing as much artillery, not because artillery is bad or I don't like it or anything like that, just because you're probably going to improve more if you concentrate on these three classes over here and not so much on TDs and artillery. All right, that is what we have gleaned, I think, from the stats. Let's take a look at 3 games for Amaruk and see if we can give him a little bit of help here. All right, for his first game, he's in his 3001. I believe it's the H version of the 3001. Yes, 3001 H, Tier 5 German heavy tank. At about Tier 5 or 6, the difference between heavy tanks and medium tanks is a little bit esoteric. Really, when you get to Tier 6, for sure, there's a couple Tier 5s that are no kidding heavy tanks like the KV-1. But we'll go ahead and see what he does with this German. It's actually fairly decent armored heavy tank. So for a Tier 5, this more or less operates like a heavy tank would at higher tiers. You know, when you get into Tier 4 to 5, it's a little bit tricky. But he has spawned into Tundra, and I like that he's going over to this area because this is really the critical terrain in my opinion. He could have gone over to the west side and played punchy face with the 220 and the KV-1S. But let's see how this works out for him. But remember, we were going to talk a little bit about how to get shots, how to make your shots count, how to see if we can help him out with his accuracy, and just gameplay in general. As a new player, what I liked in general about Amaruk's initial gameplay when I watched these 3 videos or replays the first time is that he is aggressive and he does go to spots that seem to matter. Now, I think that was an auto-aim, and you do use a lot of third person, so I think that would have been a lot better. Had you come up here and stopped and aimed in like this, I'm assuming you were waiting to catch somebody crossing there. That's a good plan. If you just stopped, zoomed in just a little bit to about right here, that shot would have went right into him as soon as you saw him. But as it was, you shoot right into the rock. So you are using shift zoom. That's what I was talking about earlier. That's how you do that. You are using shift zoom, and we're going to see that all day long. It is going to go all over the place. All right. I talk about shift zoom a lot, and I guess I'm a little bit surprised now that I've done more and more of these with newer players and players trying to learn how to get better at how much that shift zoom is used, because I just never used it. I've always been a scroll guy on all my games as far as zooming in on things, especially for snipers, on some of the few FPSs I played, things like that. It just has really surprised me how much it gets used. All right, so we're going to look at this. You are way over angled. You got the idea of the side scrape down, but look how angled you are. You could have come out with about half that angle, and I don't think you would have even exposed yourself to the 3001H, which is what hit you. See how your back end's out? If you'd have put about half that angle, your back end would be, I'm going to put it on this screen right here. If you had half that angle, your back end would be more or less right here, and it would either been a bounce more than likely or not even a shot put on you by the 3001. So I'm assuming you were coming out to get a shot on the P43, but you over-angled, you came out too far, your back end went out too far, and now it's exposed to any other tanks that are in echelon like that 3001. So anytime you're side scraping, it's as little angle, as high an angle to the enemy as possible, as little of your tank exposed as possible to get out. In addition to that, watching out for, and this my zoom is not going to work very well, watching out for exposing your front plate. Okay, so the front plate right here, try not to let that come out. But that's more or less the angle that you just gave those guys. It's just way over angled. So that cost you a shot. Okay, that was interesting. I don't know if the P43 fired at you. I think he did, and I think he's inside your reload. So this was a good idea, maybe not to go straight back out, except now you just went out, and you got lucky there that he did not actually pin you, so you're over angled still. And the other bummer there is your rear end is still sticking out, so he still has shots at you. You get it repaired with your guys and kind of hang out right here. So I think a side scrape here is in order, but the angle, see how much of your rear end is sticking out where you can't even see. This is what you see, but what they see, again, it's freaking hard with that on a zoom out mod. What they see is a bunch of that. Okay, if I can get there. Yeah, you see what I'm talking about. The line of sight is down your gun barrel, and your rear end was sticking way out right there. So now we got to start thinking about creating shots. You've taken in a good spot. I like where you are. I like what you're doing. One thing that's not good about this spot is artillery can hit it. The good news is they haven't started raining on you. But what are you doing to create shots? A couple times you tried to side scrape, and I like this right here. I would have explored this a little bit more. Just a lot less angle. Get your nose tucked up into this rock and just slide out a little bit and bait them. Just out. See if you can bait them. Maybe they can bounce off your highly angled, pop out, and get a shot on one of these guys. P-43 makes a move, and I thought you were going for him. And I thought, ooh, that's going to be dangerous because now I'm going to expose myself to the 3001H. What I would have done with that little move on his, since I don't think I would have been able to get there, I'd have let him go. I'd have tucked up right here and then started side scraping against the 3001H. And that is a bit of a bummer. You get your engine damaged, then you get tracked. I'd have fixed that engine and got out of there immediately instead of standing in and letting that 3001 hit me a couple times. All right, so this is what's happening now is you're getting a bit of an advantage created against these two. You may have some TDs back here camping out behind them right here. As long as you don't expose yourself to them, you'll be all right. This Sherman up top, get the thing going. This Sherman up here is helping you out by getting crossfire on this P-43. This is actually a really good situation to side scrape out with using the rock to defend yourself against the 3001H and shoot the P-43, who is now busy looking at the M4. When you're in a multi-bogey environment like this, you want to try to look for shots where one guy can't hit you and maximize the crossfire between you and the guys that are helping. And I can see you really trying to figure out this whole side scrape thing right here. Just taking you a little while to do it. So the artillery gets rid of that guy. And also we got guys crossing. Yeah, zoom. Just get out there and get those shots. Oh, there's that zoom. Ah, geez. All right, so an easier or a quicker side scrape backwards out there, and then instead of the shift zoom, which, you know, holy cow, I'm shift zooming. Where am I looking? I don't know. Just scroll in on that dude and get that shot. So there's another missed opportunity on a shot. Some hit points left. That Wolverine is exposed. That's another guy you could have went out after immediately. Again, look at that, just way over angled. You take another shot from the 3001H right there. Now it's clean up on aisle 2, and unfortunately you've given up a few too many hit points right here. Now, when he's looking like that, just go get him. He's not looking at you. Go, 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 go. Oh! All you had to do was side scrape. In that case, I would have accepted a little bit more angle coming out and take that shot on him, although now you got another friend of his coming up. If he gets looking at the other guy, you do have to time that a little bit. It depends on how fast their turret is and how much they seem to be paying attention. Now these two are just going to stare at you the rest of the game, it appears. Okay, so now think about this. All right, that guy's coming up here. He's going after my M4. I could actually sneak over here to this opening and get shots on these guys. Looks like you're thinking about it. There we go. There we go. Just go in, pop that KV-1. He's not looking. Get in there. Oh, shift zoom. What are we doing? Oh, geez. See? All right, let's just pause that because I'd have driven out like this. In fact, I would have come around that corner, not zoomed in all the way so that I'm looking at a bunch of rock, but zoomed in a little bit. And as soon as I cleared that, zoom in on that guy and just shoot him right there. Go kill that guy. You're not going to get those hit points. He can't kill you with one shot. He's not even looking at you. That just took a long time for you to react. And that's something that people learn, and it takes a while for people to learn in the game is what's going on around me? What's the enemy tank doing or looking at or paying attention to? How many of my friends are around? What's the likelihood of when I pop out there, him being able to spin his turret completely around and shoot me? Very little. The other thing you can do is zoom out like this and go, which way is he pointing? His turret was actually looking up here or back there. So you had all kinds of time just to come around that corner and go after him. So end game, some more aggression to get you some more hit points in there. Try to create shots, a little bit more creation of shots. Your side scrape angle is too high. You're early enough in your gaming on this to crap can shift zoom. It's worthless. The more I see people use it, the more convinced I am how bad it is. I know there's a couple guys that I do replay reviews on who actually use it pretty well, but as a general rule, it's awful. You know, just holy cow, I'm looking at a rock. And even if I'm like, all right, I'm gonna look at this guy. Who knows where that's looking? You know, it's just a big rock. If I zoom in and go, okay, what's going on here? You know, of course, it's a bad example because this rock behind me and the camera thing. But if I zoom in this way, it just makes more sense. If you see me driving around, you're going to see me doing this a bunch. I'm looking around, I'm zooming in a little bit. I'm like, okay, what's going on? What I like about this angle is I have a general idea of where my gun is pointed, as opposed to going into straight zoom. And I can see my tank a little bit while I maneuver. That's what I like about that angle right there. What I like about this angle is the ability to look all around me and see what's going on. And this whole shift zoom. All right, I've beat that dead horse. Let's move on to the second example. Second example will be another 3001H. I do like it when you guys send me 2 of the same tank so I can at least get a general feel as opposed to just the one-off game or just one bad or one good game. I don't know what the Sturv's doing other than dying. We're going to go ahead on Ghost Town and come on in here and start looking for shots. Let's see what happens here. We take that shot. Nicely done. All right, good start. That's a fantastic start. All right, I wanted to talk about this. I see you do this a bit as well. You'll zoom in. My zoom fixed here. You'll zoom in, and you'll shoot him, and then you'll be just kind of staring down the soda straw for a minute. As soon as you shoot, especially if someone dies, zoom out and look around. What's going on? Has somebody showed up on my side? Is that guy moving? Is he moving back? Is he coming at me? Am I going to get another shot? What's going on around me? Do I see an artillery round come in? All those different things. All right. And we kind of zoom in again. And this is where I'll start asking you, and I know that you said you like this. What's the plan? Looks like the plan is maybe to wait for the M4, but look what you got going on there. You got KV-1 and the T-80s over on the other side. Now, you're a little bit exposed right here, to be honest. Why my zoom wants to do that? Stupid buildings. Because they spawned over here. This is really driving me crazy. They spawned over here, and a good portion of them came in here, but what about this side? Did any of them come up this way? And if they show up, they're going to show up right there. What's interesting about this game is there's a lot of TDs. So right off the bat, I would start assessing, and maybe you did. You know what? I bet they don't send many in town. Certainly not the Martyrs. Maybe the Hetzer and the 67. I would not expect the Su-85 to come in there, or the Martyrs, or even the Electo. So we're going to come around this corner, and we just do this stand-in thing. All right, this was an important one here. You come around you just come blitzing around the corner. I am the big dick daddy right here, fellas. Shoot me, you can't hurt me. And that actually ends up working out. When you saw that T-80 and you were coming around the corner, I would have stopped back here. Use this building to cover up against the second bandit. That's what I'm talking about on multi-bogey environments with 2 guys, fighting 2 or more guys. Minimize the exposure to everyone but the one you want to shoot. And the T-80 presented himself as a nice little target for you to sit back here using this building to cover you up and just shoot that guy until he either backs up or dies, and then you can come in and start working the KV-2. There's absolutely no reason to let them both have shots on you, and that's how you die real quick in this game, having 2 tanks shooting at you at once. The good news is, now I don't know if you meant to do this, but you're pretty well angled against those guys. In fact, it's just about perfectly angled from their angle, about the best you can do. Like I said earlier, this has got a pretty good armor on it, and the KV-1, now this is good because the KV-1 is over angled to you. That's close to what you were presenting the guys in the last game. Not quite as much. Not quite as much, but pretty close. So you can see how bad of an angle that is when you're overexposed. Let's watch how you do this, though. That's your view. That's kind of third person. I would be... It's hard to... Well, stupid. Hold on. Let me just get this. Yeah, of course, that big post is going to be in the way. Go for his front sprocket. There is hitbox behind it, so that you can track him and do damage to him at the same time. I think you got lucky there. Did you end up tracking him? You did, but it's easier to do it with the sprocket. I agree with that. I would have gone after him too. If you can get rid of him, that'd be good. He should actually be out there plinking away at you because he just let that KV-1 die. All right, worked out for you. 916 damage, 11 assist in there. Your armor held up. You have 687 bounce. But had you been much softer or not quite as well angled, or that player had been a little better, you'd be much more damaged. You'd have been mauled by that KV-1 right there. So take those things to heart. Don't overexpose. Don't expose yourself to 2 guys when you don't need to. And look for those tracking shots. That's hugely, hugely, hugely important. I'm more and more convinced of that. I mean, it's always been important. I've always understood that. But as I watch some of the very, very best players, a lot of times everything they do is a tracking shot. If they're taking a shot at you, in most cases, it's a tracking shot. If there's any way for them to get damage and to track, they're doing that. And it is hugely, hugely important. Especially if you don't pen and you get a track, then you get the assist because someone else hits them. That's money all day long. That's my gangster talk. It's money. All right. This, oh my gosh, I stopped right as the artillery. This is cleanup on aisle 2 time. You do need to be a bit careful. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks on the map, 5 counting their artillery, which leaves 3 or 4 and some of them TD. So probably not a bad idea to not come blitzing around this corner. Now there, right there, this is map awareness. See that martyr? If we look at the map down here, he is actually in front of that. He is actually in front of that little rock right there, which means he's exposed to fire. So all you have to do is go drive right around this corner right here and take shots up there onto that martyr. That's free damage. And the problem is we're really enamored of this Hetzer that we have absolutely no capability of shooting. I'm going to show you right here. Boom. Come over. Zoom in. Hello, Mr. Martyr. Free damage. 2 shots, he's gone. Oh, takes a while, and we ignore it, which I'm not really sure why. One of the reasons you kill guys like that, and it looks like the other guys have him, but one of the reasons you do that is, A, you get the points. That's always a good thing. You get the points killing him up there. And it doesn't put you in a crossfire of 2 or 3 guys. It takes one of the guns out of the game that may be shooting you while you are pushing up and advancing. Because the Panzer Fizzle-Lizzle, he can't get any shots for a couple moments. Good news is your buddies took him down. Now you come in here, take him out. Fantastic, well done. Now the Hetzer is hetzing over there. I would almost consider pressing 2 to deal with the Hetzer. You shouldn't have too much trouble, but the armor's okay, actually, and it's got some angles, which can be a problem. On that approach, I'd have just been zoomed in on him as I came around the corner and put that pip right on him, shot him. Vice doing the auto-aim third-person thing. I just feel like that's more accurate. Maybe some of your hit rate issues are maybe a little bit over-reliance on auto-aim. Auto-aim certainly has its place in the game and can be very useful, but I would lean away from using it, vice leaning towards using it. So we'll just speed this up. I don't know if you get any more damage here. Oh, that's right. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about. More than likely, there's nobody up in this rock up here. More than likely, they're all down here in the middle. In fact, one just got lit up. I would have made a beeline straight down, towards that area there and went and tried to get the last hit points. Looks like maybe you're thinking someone's up there, or I don't know, maybe getting high ground. And that's one of those things at the end game when you're, the stat padding idea is go to where the hit points are as fast as possible. Use W and keep on trucking. You got plenty of hit points. That team's not going to come back and win just because you drove across the open right there, and you may have got 1 or 2 more shots in and a little bit more damage. That is really one of those big things that very good players do, just to add a few more hit points, a few more bits of damage, some more experience, which turns into crew experience, which turns into credits, all that stuff. And over the long run, an extra shot or 2 every 3 or 4 games, while you do that, count starts to add up. All right, let's go to the third example is a Panzer IV-H, which is actually a medium tank, not a whole lot different than the 3001H, but it's running a little derp gun there, and we're going to go ahead and load into Siegfried line. We are defending an assault, and we're going to head up to this little ridge area. Now, I used to use this area quite a bit. In fact, this little divot right here was very nice for going hull down. With artillery, it's not quite as nice. We actually bounce a shot there, and that works out. Absolutely back off that, but I don't particularly like that spot anymore. These bushes are useful, but it's hard to cover up coming up over here from everything. Somebody on this ridge will see you. If I go too far over to the left, someone over here may see me. So we're going to work this ridge for a bit. You got the ELC out of the way, and the good news is the artillery does not seem to be bothered by the Panzer IV-H hanging out right there. You do, sometimes, and I advocate this a bit with artillery, is you play the game like it's not really there, not completely, but more or less, until it proves it's paying attention to you, and then you've got to change what you're doing or you're going to get nickeled and dimed to death. So obviously don't just go drive out in the open and challenge it to blast you at all times, But you can, in this case, hang out in positions like this for a little bit until it proves that it's coming after you. Of course, in the past, when it was one-shottable kind of artillery, this is just some gunnery stuff right there. In the past, when artillery could one-shot you, this would be a dangerous proposition because you may just get deleted. That was it's hard to take just one example of gunnery, but I saw some things, similar things, a couple times. Just a little bit of the shakiness in there, and sometimes that's just something you got to deal with. Sometimes it's just something you got to deal with. That may actually talk a little bit to your reliance on auto aim, trying to make that happen. But if you can, just try to get a little bit more of a what's stabilized shot, I guess I would say. Now, one technique for that, as opposed to trying to follow the guy as he jiggles back and forth, is just put your pipper somewhere where you know he's going to be and try to time his jiggling. And I find sometimes when I chase guys a bit with the pipper, which I tend to do as well, and sometimes my hands get a little shaky too. You know, been a long day, been working, getting older, that kind of stuff. You get a little bit of the palsy going on. When I see that happening, a lot of times I'll just go, okay, you know who's doing that? I am. So how do you stop doing that? Just stop doing it. Just put your mouse there and wait for him to rock back and forth and then pickle that shot off right there. All right. I used to tell that to the students when they were in a bit of a PIO in the jet. They'd be saying something like, what's doing that? And I'd be like, well, that's you. You need to stop doing that. Once he looked at me, I would have started moving to try to get out of his way. You saw him staring right at you. That's a clue that, holy cow, he's paying attention to this guy. So as what I would have done is backed out and put my front end to him. So what, back and left? W-A? Yeah, W and A in this case. Back and left to put my front armor to him. Maybe wiggle the turret a bit to see if we can get him to bounce off of the mantlet right there. But don't just sit there and accept that he's going to hit you. Sometimes you can do that if you know you're going to get a return shot and you're going to kill him. But in this case, you were still reloading. I would have not accepted that shot right into my side right there without doing something. This I cannot stress enough, and it really kind of reminds me of something I wanted to talk about. The way you make people miss, the way you make people bounce off weird angles, the way you survive one more time out of 10 is by doing that stuff. Watch a really, really good player. Watch how much crazy wiggling and jiggling and switching around that they're doing. That may not be for everybody, because that's one of the reasons mediums are kind of hard to do, but even just a little bit. And in this case, in this particular case, simply a move backwards and shifting my front armor to him would have decreased my target from this to this, right? Of course, not as skinny as my phone, but I was giving him a big flat plate, and as I back out, I'm giving him a much smaller target. So maybe he just plain old misses because RNG says, sorry, right or left. But if I do this, it's kind of hard to miss right or left because I'm so big, especially this big flat plate guy. All right, I beat that dead horse. Pert near to death. Pert near to death. So question, plan, what are we doing? Really, what we've done is, since we're on defense, we've kind of let them come to us, and that's pretty good. But look at the situation now. Look at the situation now, and in the 1G environment, nothing's going on. Think about it for a second. What's my next plan? Where am I going? What am I going to do? How's my team doing? Well, my team's kicking the rear. Where's the hit points? Well, they're all in here. They're all here. So how about we go from here down to here and start taking more hit points out? Might as well. Or, alternately, go to the flank and help get rid of the Churchill. Because the Churchill's really the only thing, this Churchill's the only thing that's keeping you guys from owning this north flank. Looks like the south flank is owned. Oh, good. Churchill's running away. That's good. Now, I didn't see that shot, so we'll let that go. But as I recall, it was another bit of an issue of gunnery right there. And, you know, sometimes the gunnery thing, that's just, it's so personal and dependent. It just really does. But it can be mentioned to you a little bit. Whoa. There we go. Nicely done. Nicely done. I think that was another example. If you could have just stopped moving your gun for just a minute, let it settle down, and you probably would have shot him right away. I also believe that some of it is the ship zoom, requiring you to kind of fine-tune the shot, which is, again, why I just like to zoom straight into him with my little green dot. Mine's a green dot. I don't know what you have set up, but the pipper, and I can just zoom and put the pipper right on him and fire away. I would say you're late moving in. based on what we talked about earlier. Where are the hit points? How's the team doing? What's going on in the match? But you are moving in, so that's fantastic. It's something you can work on. You can work with right there. Nicely done. Did you really do 347? Oh, man, you penned the side of that 3045 and turned a 300 odd damage game into an 800 damage game. That's good. Absolutely. Press W. Now, this is what I see a lot, too, with new players and players that are learning to get good. At this stage of the game, everybody gets it. Hey, let's rage forward and get some hit points. That decision should have been made considerably longer ago. That's a terrible way to say it, but should have been made a long time ago or long ago. Good players would have already been up forward, trading a little bit of their last HP or not worrying too much about their last HP just to get in there and get a few more hit points. That doesn't mean you rage in and let people kill you for no reason. You still have to be cautiously or smartly aggressive. But maybe that gives you another 50 meters and you were the first one to come up and over this hill and get a shot on the grill. All right, man. Well, that's all I've got for you, Amaruk. Thanks for sending all that stuff in. Good stuff. What I would say to you is definitely a solid foundation. Definitely some things to work on, but I see the elements are there. Now the question is just how to put them all together, how to react to the flow of the game a little bit better. Working on the gunnery, I think, is a big thing. Try to get rid of shift zoom. That's a personal thing. You know, if you like it and it works for you, then stick with it. I feel like it's giving you some issues right there. A little less third-person shooting, a little bit more fine-tuning on the shots there. Work on the side scraping angle. You were a little bit wrong there. Never accept a shot unless there's a good reason to. And the one I beat to death, that horse I beat to death was, in my opinion, not a good reason to. Right there. So there's just some solid, I hope, specific things that you can work on. And let us know down below how it went. I do appreciate you sending it in. I appreciate everybody's support of the channel. I do enjoy these, actually. It's been interesting going through this, looking at the stats, looking at different players, different play styles, seeing if the stats correlate to what's going on in the game. And I will have to tell you, in general, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. That's all I've got for today. Thanks for your support. Like I said, if you want other ways to do so, you'll find lots of options down in the description, and we will see you.